In last week's tutorial we learned how to crochet a spike stitch granny square. In this video I'm going to show you how to take that spike granny square stitch and work it back and forth in rows. I am going to be showing you everything you need to know to crochet this stitch. You do not have to have already watched this tutorial for today's video, so let's jump in. Start by making a slip knot using your preferred method. This is how I like to make my slip knots. Then your starting chain needs to be a multiple of 4 plus 1. It can be any length you like as long as it is that multiple of 4 plus 1. For the purposes of this tutorial I'm going to be going for 25 chains. So go ahead and make your chain and then I'll meet you back here and I'll show you row 1. To start row 1 we're going to make a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So that's a double crochet in US terms. They're called trebles in the UK. I use US terms in my tutorials. So again we're going to make a double crochet in the 4th chain from the hook. So I'm going to count the chains from my hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in that chain there I'm going to make a double crochet. Next, make one chain, and then we're going to skip the next chain, and we're going to work a double crochet into the next 3 stitches. So I'm going to yarn over, I'm skipping this chain, into the next chain I'm making a double crochet, and again into the next chain a double crochet, and again a double crochet in the next chain. So we're now going to repeat these steps across. So chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next 3 chains. And you're going to repeat this across your chain all the way along until you have 1 chain left, and then come back to this tutorial and I'll show you what we do into this final chain. So I've repeated that across my chain and I've got 1 chain left. I've just done those 3 double crochets after a chain 1 space here. Into this final chain work 1 double crochet. So if we have a look at what we've done for row 1, we've got that repeat across of 3 double crochets in chain 1 spaces. At the start of the row we have our turning chain of chain 3, and I think I forgot to say earlier that turning chain here, that counts as 1 double crochet stitch. And then next to that we've got 1 double crochet, so we've got 2 double crochets at one end and 4 double crochets at the other. So before we move on to row 2 we're going to need to change colours. So to fasten off this colour, make 1 chain, cut your yarn leaving a tail long enough to weave in later, about 5 or 6 inches is fine. Then use your crochet hook to pull that yarn tail through that chain we made, give it a pull to tighten and fasten off. So I've pulled up the end of my next colour. And before we change colours we're going to turn our crochet over because we're working back and forth in rows, so we turn at the end of every row. So I'm now going to identify my first stitch, so this stitch here. I'm going to put my crochet hook into the top of it, just like that. Then I'm going to lay my next colour over the crochet hook, and again I'm going to leave a tail long enough to weave in later, and I'm going to use my crochet hook to pull up a loop through that first stitch. Now I have a bit of a trick here that helps secure this tail and stops this first stitch becoming too loose, is I'm actually going to lay my yarn tail that I've just created over the top of my crochet hook, and I'm going to kind of catch it with my first couple of starting chains. So as you can see my tail is tucked over my crochet hook and I've kind of tucked it down there out of the way, and I'm going to kind of ignore it now and it kind of just catches it a little bit to keep it a bit more stable. To start row 2, make 3 chains, so yarn over, pull through underneath that tail there, and then I'm going to do 2 more chains, so I've done 3 total, catching that tail there. Can you see how it's been caught in that chain a bit? That's not secure, it's not a knot or anything, we're still going to have to weave our ends in, but it just keeps it a little bit more secure and stops it coming loose. So that chain 3 counted as our first double crochet stitch. So next we're going to make a double crochet back in the same stitch that we joined our yarn. So in there, I'm going to work a double crochet. Next, chain 1 and skip 3. So from this point until our very last stitch, I think, We're only going to be working into the chain 1 spaces from the row below, and we're also going to be doing some stitches into that skipped chain from our starting chain down here. So we're going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, and into the next chain 1 space make a double crochet. Then we're going to make something called a spike double crochet into that skipped chain down here. So some people call this an elongated double crochet. They're essentially the same thing with a different name. I prefer calling them spike stitches because it sounds way more fun than an elongated stitch. So to do that spike stitch, yarn over, put your hook into that skipped chain. Again, it doesn't really matter what loops you go into in your chain here. I like going under 2 loops there like that. But I'm not bringing my hook to the front like this. I'm putting my hook through to the back of my work there. Then I'm going to yarn over and pull up a loop. I'm going to keep pulling until that loop there is about the same height as the double crochet stitch next to it there. You can see how long that is there. Then I'm going to finish off my double crochet stitch like I normally would. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Now if I give this a bit of a wiggle around, you can see how that stitch is elongated or spiked down there compared to the stitch next to it. So we're now going to work a double crochet back into that chain 1 space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull those 2 stitches over that I've just made to make a bit of a space, and that should reveal that chain 1 space there. So I'm going to make my double crochet where you can see my finger poking out there. So I'm going in there to make just a normal double crochet. So what we've made just here, these 3 stitches, I call them a spike granny group, and that's what makes this interesting visual texture on our stitches, that spike stitch there. So we're now going to repeat this along. So I'm going to skip 3, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then work a double crochet in the next chain 1 space. I'm going in there to make a double crochet. Then I'm going to make that spike double crochet into that chain down here that we skipped in row 1. So put my hook in there to the back of my work, yarn over, pull up a loop and keep pulling until that loop is about the same height as the stitch next to it, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Pull those 2 stitches over so we can get back into that same chain 1 space there and work a double crochet into it. So repeat that across to the end of the row, working chain 1, skip 3, and then that spike granny group all the way along until you've just made a spike granny group into this final chain 1 space here, and I'll meet you here and show you how we finish off the row. So I've worked those repeats all the way across, and this is what my crochet is looking like. I've just done a spike granny group, but I've not done the chain 1 space after it because we're now at the end of the row. At the end of the row we're going to work 1 double crochet in the last stitch, and the last stitch is our turning chain from the row below. Sometimes this can be a little bit difficult to find out where to put your hook. Again, it's personal preference where you put your hook when it comes to working in chains. I prefer to put my hook under those 2 loops at the edge there, and I'll kind of show you what that looks like. From the front, that's where I've gone in. I'm going to make that double crochet. So now we're going to fasten off and change colours just like we did at the end of row 1. We're now ready to start row 3, and the great thing about row 3 is we're actually going to be repeating row 3 over and over again until your crochet piece is the size you want it to be. So this pattern is actually only a 1 row repeat from this point forwards. I am going to show you a really great final row that will close up any holes you've got left. So yeah, until your very last row we're going to be repeating row 3 over and over again. So to start row 3, make 3 chains, 1, 2, 3. That counts as a double crochet stitch. Then we're going to make a double crochet stitch into that same stitch. So I'm going back in that same stitch there. Next, chain 1 and skip 3. So skip, 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 just like we did in row 2. This row is actually very similar to row 2, but we're going to be working our spike stitches into the top of row 1 instead of the chain. So next, work a double crochet into that chain 1 space. Then we're going to make that spike double crochet, but we're going to be doing it not into a chain but into the second double crochet of that group of 3 double crochet below the chain 1 space. So if I grab a little needle, we've got 1, 2, 3 double crochets here. I'm going to be making my spike stitch into that stitch there, that second one, the middle one. So yarn over, put your hook into that stitch there, through to the back, yarn over, pull up a loop and keep pulling until it's the same height as the double crochet next to it. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then pull those 2 stitches across and work a double crochet back into the chain 1 space. Then chain 1, skip 3, and that spike granny group in each chain across. So chain 1, skip 3, spike granny group, chain 1, skip 3, spike granny group, and repeat that all the way across until you've worked that last granny group just here, and I will meet you here. So that's what your row 3 should look like, and I've just done that spike granny group and I've got 2 stitches left unworked, and into that last stitch, the turning chain from the row below, I'm going to work a double crochet just like we did at the end of row 2. So now we can fasten off, change colours, and yeah, repeat row 3 over and over and over again until you have got a piece the size that you want it to be. For example, if it's a blanket or a scarf, this is going to be lots and lots and lots of rows. But as you can see, on our final row, we've been left with these holes. And last week I showed you how to do a row on the granny square to close up those holes. So I'm going to show you that again now for when we're working in rows. Start this final row with a chain 1, that does not count as a stitch. Now work a single crochet, that's called a double in UK terms, but yeah, a single crochet in US terms, into that first stitch. Now work a single crochet into each stitch until you reach a chain 1 space. So I've now worked 4 single crochets and I'm now at a chain 1 space. And we're going to work a spike stitch, but we're going to work a spike single crochet, not a spike double crochet here. And we're going to do it, I didn't necessarily choose the best coloured yarn with this dark grey here, but we're going to do it in that same stitch we've been doing our spike double crochets in, so this second stitch here. So I'm going to work a spike single crochet, so no yarn overs. I'm putting my hook into that stitch, through to the back of my crochet, yarn over and pull up a loop, and I'll pull it up until it's up to the same height as the stitch next to it, so it's quite long again. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So that was a spike single crochet. We're now going to repeat this across, so single crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, and then a spike single crochet into that middle stitch of the row below there, remembering to pull up that loop quite far. So repeat that all the way across, and I'll just do that and show you what this finished swatch looks like. So I've continued working across and I've worked a single crochet into those last 2 stitches, and this is what the finished piece looks like. I've got loads more crochet stitch tutorials on this playlist here that you might want to try next, and I'll see you again next week for another video.